morning or afternoon, as it may be, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you to the Sage 100 Tips and Tricks webinar. And today we're going to talk about backups, your hardware, and your antivirus. This session today is pre-recorded, and but I will provide you with information on how to contact our team if you have any questions or need assistance with anything that we're going to talk about today. So with this, I guess I want to start by saying that the reason that we find the need to have this particular webinar is that more and more people are getting severe viruses, especially things such as ransomware, where it is literally locking you out of your files. And it has been our experience over probably the last 4 to 5 years that clients, when they have a situation such as this, I'm going to say 50 to 75% of the of our users find out, unfortunately, that they do not have a good backup. And the reason for that could be various things. Maybe the person that used to be responsible for the backup left the company. The new person assumed someone else was taking care of it, but it wasn't being taken care of. Maybe you're getting backups and you assume that everything is working, but you never check it to do a test restore to make sure that it is working properly. Possibly you're doing incremental backups and it's not backing up your entire Sage, your Mass90 folder. So there's lots of reasons where you could run into this issue. And we've even had clients in this situation where they actually paid the ransom, but it did not bring all of their files back. So they still had a lot of issues. So we cannot stress enough having a good backup of everything that you use. But today we're focusing on Sage 100 or any Sage related products that you may have. Inherently, Sage 100 does not have an internal backup available. So there's not a button you can go in and push within Sage 100 that's going to back up your software. So you do have to have a strategy and a plan in place. So today we're going to kind of go through a PowerPoint presentation, and it's a lot of information to cover. But please note that if you have attended the webinar, or even if you had a coworker that may be registered but was not able to attend, you will receive a follow-up email within a couple of days after this presentation, and it will provide you with a link to the recording. So, you know, having good backups, knowing how to recover from that is so important to your business. So the thing that you want to make sure, and today we're going to focus on Sage 100. So if you have other products such as Sage CRM, Sage Abra, Sage HRMS, Sage Fixed Assets, you need to have a backup strategy for all of those as well. But today our focus is going to be talking about 100. So you want to make sure that you're getting a good backup of every file and folder and program folder that reside below the Mass90 level. So if you're backing up everything at this Mass90 level and below, that's going to be backing up all of your system files. It's going to be backing up your reports folder, all of your company data, and it should be grabbing everything. So again, you want to make sure that you are backing up at least at this Mass90 level. So you might have your IT person double check and make sure that that's what's currently happening. Excuse me. You should not be doing incremental backups. You need to be backing up everything within this Mass90 folder, and we recommend that that be done every night. Incremental backups are only backing up things that have changed for a particular day. And you could run into an issue if you're not backing up every night and you have to do a restore. Chances are you're probably going to lose some data. So do not do incremental backups. We recommend that you do a nightly backup of your Mass 90 folder. Some people say, well, you know, we don't really do that much each day, so we just do it once a week. You know, keep in mind that if you're doing a backup once a week, if you have to do a restore, you know, probably at a minimum, depending on when that restore happens, you're going to be rekeying at least a week's worth of work. So, you know, just make sure you know all of the risks before you make that decision. And I cannot stress enough to do not assume that your backup system is working. Again, we find over and over again that clients will assume everything is working, and it's not. So you may be using some type of a tape, an external tape, and maybe that tape, you know, just has failed. So you keep thinking you're backing up every night, but it's really not. It's not working properly. If you have alternate directories, and what that means is within Sage 100, you have the ability to store things in different directories. It could be specific company data. Alternate directories are set up under the company maintenance folder, or under under library master, under main, under company maintenance. So that's where you can determine if there's alternate directories. Sometimes you may use alternate directory if you're using payroll, so that your payroll files, payroll information, any reports are stored in a different location that maybe is a little more secure, so that an employee couldn't browse out to the server and access that payroll data. Paperless Office, if you're using Paperless Office to store PDFs, you may have them being stored to, you know, a local drive or a different place on the server. So you want to make sure that if you are storing data outside of the Mass 90 folder that's related to your Sage 100, that you're getting a backup of those as well. So just kind of another, to reiterate, if you're unsure if you're backing up everything properly, please reach out to our support team, and they will be glad to work with you and guide you through that process so that you're getting a proper backup. And at the end of this presentation, I'll be providing you with information on how to get in touch with them. So the final line of defense is a strategy for restoration. So if you have a good backup plan, you know that you're getting nightly backups, you know that you are backing up everything properly, you need to have a restoration plan. You need to have it in place so that should you have an issue, you immediately, everybody knows what that plan is for the restore, and that you are getting restored as soon as possible, so that you aren't, you know, sitting there not being able to get into your Sage and or other products. So you need to work with your IT to establish that recovery strategy, so that if you have internal IT, you need to work with them. Oasis is also glad to work with them to help to develop that strategy. And also, if you have external IT that manages your backups, you know, we're glad to work with them as well. But you need to be talking to whoever your IT support is, whether internal or external, and making sure that they have a good, sound recovery strategy. And I would have that not just, yeah, we have a good plan. I would ask to see that plan in writing, and I would make sure that all the applicable people have a copy of that plan as well. So with this plan, again, we suggest that you have a rolling 7 days of daily full backups. Again, not incremental backups, but full backups of that entire Mass 90 folder, any other folders that we've talked about in alternate directories or paperless office. And when you're getting a backup, those backups need to be scheduled at a time where everyone is out of Sage 100. If you're doing a backup and you have people still working in Sage 100, or maybe your team does not exit out of Sage every day and shut down, which they should be, they run the risk of locking files, and those locked files may not be backed up. So even though you are doing everything properly, your end users might have some files locked. So you want to make sure that you're not doing that as having that issue. And again, backing up the folders, you want to do the entire Mass 90 folder, anything related to paperless. If you use BizNet for your custom financials, maybe you are using Sage Intelligence for custom financials. You may use Sage Fixed Assets, Sage CRM, Sage HRMS, or Abra. Anything related to your Sage, you want to make sure that you're following this particular backup strategy. And this kind of goes back to what we talked about in the very beginning, is do not make assumptions about the viability of your backup. Don't just assume that it's working because you can see every night that it backed up data. We have some smaller clients that they'll actually use a thumb drive, you know, and at the end of every evening they will copy in their Mass 90 folder and keep that. But again, you need to be doing some type of a test of that restoration plan we just talked about. So once your IT has a restoration plan, you really should be testing that plan. I know that's a little time and a little effort, and it could be a little of an expense, especially if you have external IT, but this is really important. The reason to do that testing plan for your restoration is, you know, can you recover within an amount of time to preserve your business continuity? You don't want to be down for several days. Let's say that you're a manufacturer or you're a distributor, and you need to be entering sales orders and fulfilling those sales orders and getting product out the door to your customers. If your Sage system is down, you're kind of stuck. So, you know, when you're going to do this restoration, how long is it going to take you to actually do that recovery? And with that, I will add, and I may have something on another slide, but some clients use kind of a cloud backup system, maybe, oh shoot, the name escapes me at the moment, of Carbonite. I believe Carbonite is one of the backups that I hear, services that I hear advertised, but there are lots of others that are around now. You know, you need to be checking with them to see how long, you know, yes, they're getting a good backup of your system. Your backup is in the cloud, but how long is it going to take to restore? I know in the past, I've had a client that had a situation with ransomware. They were using a cloud-based backup system, but it took about 3 to 4 business days for that service to restore them. So basically, they were without their Sage 100 for that amount of time. So if you're looking at some type of third-party situation, when you're making that plan, you need to know how long it's going to take to restore everything. So again, with testing, doing the testing of your restoration plan, you know, are the files that you're backing up actually usable? Can you fully restore? So all of these things are things that need to be discussed and need to be tested. Do you find that when you're doing this restoration plan and testing it out, you know, were there locked files? Are your end users not exiting properly at the end of the day? You know, do you have someone that routinely gets in at night at midnight and wants to do some work? you need to be taking all of that into consideration, and also making sure that you're not getting incremental backups. And then again, after you've come up with your restoration plan, you need to test that plan. You need to do a restore. You need to walk through the entire scenario. Should there be some type of a catastrophic failure with your server crashing, there's a fire, something is damaged, anything of that nature, you need to be testing that restoration plan. So, and with that, let me talk about a couple of things about your backup. If you're doing a backup, you need to be restoring those, or not restoring, excuse me, you need to be storing those backups off-site. I've had a couple of situations where I've spoken with clients and asked them, do you get a good backup of your system? And they're like, yeah, everything should be fine because our server has a mirror drive. So everything we do also gets recorded to that mirror drive. So if one drive fails, everything is on the other drive. So my question to them at that point is, okay, I understand that. What if there's a fire? What if there is the sprinkler system malfunctions and there's water damage and that server is destroyed? Having that mirror drive is not going to do you any good because both drives are going to be inoperable. So, just kind of really think through that, but make sure you're keeping those backups stored off-site and that you're rotating them. So don't just use the same thumb drive every night to back up. Purchase enough thumb drives for maybe Monday through Friday, and you have a Monday backup, you have a Tuesday, and you rotate those, and then you take them home at night. So just kind of really think through that. There's a lot of things to take into consideration. So again, please feel free to reach out to our team, and we will be more than glad to work with you and your IT to help put together a good strategy and a good plan. So I just kind of wanted to reiterate that before we get into talking about hosting. Hosting software is becoming more and more popular for clients that have on-premise software, and Sage 100 is an on-premise. It does have some cloud features with things such as Atrix and a few other things that are cloud-based, but the true Sage 100, even though it is now called Sage 100 Cloud, it is not a true cloud product. It is still installed on-premise somewhere. So there has to be a server located somewhere with the software installed. So we're finding that more and more people are, they're getting ready for an upgrade. They find out that their server needs to be replaced. And they're like, I'm just tired of having to buy new servers every couple of years. I'm tired of, I worry about this backup and dragging that tape drive home every night and just the worry that kind of comes with that. A lot of people are turning to hosting, which there are many companies that will host your software. So basically, they own the server, they maintain that server, they maintain the backup of that server, and they have a lot of redundancies in place and very specific restoration plans and plans for, if something should go down. So that is something that you might want to consider. At some point is hosting your Sage 100. And so just think about, is that something that would be beneficial to us? Then you're eliminating maybe the need for as much IT support internally or externally, because this hosting provider is going to be your IT for that particular server. And some of the hosting strategies that are offered, some you can host everything. Some options can host things other than Sage products, And then there are some that are designed specifically to work with Sage. So Oasis does offer a variety of hosting options. So if it's something that you're interested in and thinking, well, how much does it cost? What are the advantages or any disadvantages of hosting with one company versus another versus having my own server? Please reach out to Jody Patterson. And this is her email address and her phone number and extension. Please reach out to Jody, and she will be glad to discuss the various hosting options for you, any advantages or disadvantages of one service versus another. She can provide you pricing, and also there's something that's new within the past few months related specifically to Sage, and that is an Azure platform, which is a Microsoft platform, which is one of the hosting options that we recommend. And one of the advantages of the Azure platform is that your end users can access Sage from any device. You do not have to have a VPN connection. Jody obviously can provide a whole lot more information about that option, but everybody's kind of been thrown for a loop with COVID starting in 2020. A lot of employees work from home for a very long period of time. You may have employees that are going to continue working remotely, and maybe the dynamic of your office is going to be shifting because of this. So there are ways to make it very easy to access your Sage 100 from anywhere you are and from any device. And again, then you have that peace of mind of backups and so forth. So please do not hesitate and reach out to Jody for any information. So that kind of talks about the backup strategy. We're going to talk just for a couple of minutes about antivirus. Obviously, everyone recommends that you have antivirus software and that you're protecting your system as best as you can, that you're keeping the antivirus updated and so forth. One of the things that antivirus can do is it can cause some performance issues within Sage 100. And it can cause issues either at the workstation level, or it can cause issues at the server level. Some of those issues might be that you get error message related to a file being locked or a file missing. And that could be because, depending on how your antivirus works, if you're trying to access the AP vendor file, you're trying to access that file is being scanned when you're accessing it. So the system may say, hey, well, that file is locked because it's currently being scanned. Or especially if you have your antivirus set up to scan at 2 p.m. every day, it may be scanning files that your employees are trying to access. So you may run into that issue. Performance issue could mean that it slows things down. That you're like, gosh, why is Sage so slow? It hasn't been this slow before, but now all of a sudden it's running really slow. Well, one of the questions that we're going to ask you is, have you made any changes to your antivirus software? Because again, as you're querying that file within Sage, your antivirus may be scanning that file before it lets you access it on your workstation, so it's slowing things down. So I would say that the performance issue is probably what we get the most comments about it running slow, versus then getting error messages related to lock files. So what we recommend is that you exclude some files from being scanned. So this doesn't mean that you're disabling antivirus. It just means that you're going to exclude certain files from being scanned. Most, unless you have a really inexpensive antivirus software or something that you could download for free, most of them will allow you to add exclusions to what's being scanned. So if you have a really aggressive antivirus or one that's continuous, that can be known as on access, constant, real-time, or network scanning, where it's constantly scanning, that may cause an issue. If it's scanning any of these 3 files within Sage, these executables, it could cause issues. You can also tell it to exclude scanning your Mass 90 folder. So that will also help. And also there are file extensions that are recommended that you tell your antivirus, disable it and do not scan these file extensions. This is a lot of information. Your IT may have concerns about file exclusions, or they may not think that the antivirus has anything to do with it. What we will ask if someone is having an issue is we will ask at first that they disable the antivirus for 15 minutes just to see if that makes a difference in the performance. And the disabling has to happen at the server level and the workstation. It has to be both in order to be able to do a good test. And if you start seeing an improvement, then we'll make recommendations. Okay, you want to enable your AV software, and then let's talk about some things that we could exclude from the scanning to see if that helps. So again, our team will work with you and or your IT on this particular situation. But you cannot just assume no, antivirus would not cause that, because we see it time after time. And we can work to help rule out those issues and come up with a solution for you. This is directly from a page in the Sage Supported Platform Matrix. The Supported Platform Matrix is what talks about the minimum software requirements for your server, your operating system, your workstations, and it's version specific. But this also talks about issues related to antivirus and scanning. So again, we can also provide you with the Supported Platform Matrix, provide your IT with that document to kind of help them understand why this could be an issue. Again, this is a lot of information. I'm not going to read it to you, but you will have it available in the recording that you receive of this presentation. So that pretty much kind of covers the importance of backups, what we recommend and why, and talking about possible performance issues with antivirus software. If you have additional questions about backup, if you want assistance with coming up with a good backup strategy, helping your IT team go through a restoration test, anything of that nature, please feel free to reach out to our Sage 100 help desk, and you can reach them by email at techsupport@oasisky.com, or you can call them at 502-429-6902, extension 227. So please feel free to reach out to them. And one thing that is not on this slide, but let me add this. If you have just general questions after this presentation and you're unsure whether or not it's truly a support issue, so you want to kind of talk to someone first to determine if it is a support issue or something else, please feel free to reach out to our client care manager, and her name is Garen Stout, S-T-O-U-T. And Garen's email is gstout@oasisky.com. So please feel free to reach out to her as well. She can forward any of your questions to tech support or the appropriate person. So please feel free to reach out to Garen as well. So I'd like to thank you for joining us today for this presentation. And again, please do not hesitate with any questions or comments, and we are more than glad to assist. Thank you.